And by we are live and in color. It is episode 39 of the Bottom Line podcast. Thank you so much for probably not joining me the second I click live, but listening to this on any device that you possibly have. My name is Davidson Baker, and obviously by now, if you're not a dumbass, you know that I'm the host of this podcast. And thank you very much for joining me today. We're going to dive into the NFL season, and I have one guest on that I have had on in the past, and we have a new face as well. I'm joined by veteran of joining the Bottom Line podcast that hit us with the fantasy football knowledge. First off, my man Ben Hertz is back on the program. Tell everybody how you doing today, my man.
What's up, guys? Doing good in Athens, Ohio right now. Doing some school stuff, and yeah, so just kicking it. Glad to be back.
Bobcats, right here. Got
Go
the hat.
Bobcats. Let's do it. Oh, look at that. That's great.
Also joining us today, my good man, really knowledgeable about the NFL, so I figured I would have this on as kind of like a three-way kind of thing. My man, straight out of fucking Frickers, my boy Jordan Freeman. What's up, brother?
What up, y'all? It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. Nothing going on here.
Yeah, no problem, boss. No problem. I think my cat just spilled a shit ton of water, though.
Might have been going nuts.
That's a terrible thing to deter. But hey, I'm just gonna have to leave it there. So let's get.
A bit.
Yeah, that sucks, but it's whatever. This is a commitment, so let's get things rolling, man. So how this is gonna work is I kind of, for those that listen to this podcast, however you are listening to it on iTunes, on Spotify, whichever way you decide to go through that avenue. I typically like to make it known at the beginning of each one that there's probably going to be a specific topic that's going to be talked about. And if you are, one of my listeners that tends to tune into fight kind of tailored editions that are maybe on the side of the UK and you're not interested in American football at all, I'm going to warn you right now, you should probably click out, because that's all we're going to be talking about today is the NFL and all things on the gridiron, specifically the professional kind. And how we're going to do this is we're going to kind of preview each division, bang, 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 and go with some talking points to kind of preview the divisions for each season and make our predictions, and we'll go into the playoffs from there. And we will obviously start with one division that's kind of been a foregone conclusion for many years now, and that's going to be the AFC East, where the Patriots, once again, seem to be head and shoulders above everybody else, and I don't think there's much debate on that topic. Mr. Freeman, we'll start with you. There's not a chance any other team comes on top of that division. Am I right?
There's no chance. Unless you see Tannehill have a Tom Brady year, we're not going to see anything different. The only problem with the team is that Patricia's gone now, so the defense is going to be weird, a little bit iffy, but then I'm sure they'll recover. Belichick's a fucking monster. And then receivers are kind of bad. Really
yeah,
bad.
The receiving core has been kind of depleted, man. Hertz, you've been paying attention to all these cuts that they've been making?
Yeah, it's crazy. I was really surprised about the Jordan Matthews cut. I thought he was going to be kind of their guy. And then I know that Eric Decker signed with the team, and then he retired a week later, so they're really slim. Like, they just added two nobodies who I've never even heard of. Chris Hansen, I don't even know the other guy. So I am concerned about, like, the wide receiving core, but at the same time, I think New England is still probably going to come – I mean, they're obviously going to come up with the division, but I don't know how they're going to be in terms of, like, getting to the Super Bowl again, because I think it's definitely a weaker roster than previous years.
Yeah, I mean, the Super Bowl topic is an interesting one because it seems like it's a given that they're going to, at least represent the AFC East in the playoffs. But, who do they have? Who do they have at receiver? You got Edelman, you got Chris Hogan. They don't have Malcolm Mitchell, or they cut Malcolm Mitchell. They cut Jordan Matthews. Eric Decker's not there. Obviously we left out Gronk, but Gronk is
healthy.
Guy. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. I mean, Gronk is a guy that, when healthy, is Brady's go-to guy. But how long can you, really expect him to stay on the active roster?
And that's the thing. That's the thing. And I only see that being, about 11, 12 games this year, especially because of the amount they're going to have to use him this year. And, I mean, he's only getting older, too. And I know there's talks about retirement soon for him. I don't think he's going to be a guy who's going to be in the league for 15, 17 years. So it's just a question of how productive he can consistently be, and they're going to need him this year for them to be relevant in the passing game. Like, I am really concerned about that.
Wow. So you're saying a not healthy Gronk makes a Tom Brady-led team irrelevant in the passing game?
No, it doesn't make it irrelevant, but it makes it way more difficult. I think no matter what, they're going to find a way to be productive. But if you don't have Gronk, like, I do see that production falling off, and they're going to have to find it this year through the ground. Someone's going to have to step up, whether that be Jeremy Hill, whether that be Sonny Michel. Like, somebody has to step up on that running game, in my opinion.
What do you think, Jordan? Is the running game going to be able to kind of salvage stuff a little bit?
I mean, with New England, it's kind of iffy. But Sonny Michel's nice. I don't like Rex Burkhead at all. I don't think Rex Burkhead's going to do anything for them.
You never know who's going to line up at running back, too. You know?
That's what sucks with them. You can't really say, like, Sonny Michel's going to come in this week and do great, and then Rex Burkhead might come in the next week and run for, like, 2 touchdowns in garbage time. It's just weird. But if they don't have a running game, that passing game might be iffy, especially without Gronk.
Yeah, I mean, it's really weird to kind of say that a Tom Brady and Bill Belichick-led passing game is going to be iffy. But, I mean, it's kind of been something that's easy to roll off the tongue with everything that's kind of happened and there being kind of a slightage in receivers. Let's talk about the rest of the division. If you guys were pretty, set in stone on kind of putting down whatever type of money you would have to spare on who would finish second in that division, is Miami that team you would go with, or would you maybe go with the less talented on paper Jets or Bills? We'll start with Hertz.
So I put my money on Miami, but I'm also not going to count out New York, because I remember last year I predicted New York going 1-15. They went 5-11. So obviously I think Todd Bowles is a good head coach. I think having, Sam Darnold, he's probably the most pro-ready right now to go in and start. So I could see them being competitive and getting around 5 to 6 wins. And I think that's where Miami's going to fall too. I think in terms of who's going to come second in that division, it's going to be either be Miami or New York. I don't think Buffalo's in the contention, because I think they have probably the second worst roster in the league. So with that being said, like, I think it's up to New York or Miami. But if I had to put my money on it, Miami, just because of, Ryan Tannehill coming back. And I mean, he's a decent quarterback, but they're not going to be good. I think they're going to be like a 6-10, 7-9 at best team.
What do you think, Jordan? Is Miami that team to kind of bring up second place, or is it one of the others?
I mean, yeah, I agree. Like, unless the Jets kind of pull it together to get 500, then I don't see anybody really competing for second place. It's not going to be like a competition for the playoffs or anything. Like, maybe a wild card if the rest of the AFC like kind of bottoms out to them. But I really don't see anybody getting above Miami unless Sam Darnold goes 8-8.
And what do we think the ceiling is for the Jets and the Bills? Because obviously, the Buffalo Bills naming starting quarterback Nathan Peterman, and the New York Jets going with Darnold. And trading before we get into the ceiling for the Jets and the Bills, how about trading Teddy Bridgewater to New Orleans? Jordan, we'll get your take first on it. How do you think that might work out eventually for Teddy Bridgewater? Is he the guy to step up and replace Drew Brees? Is that the situation to kind of take in hand? What do you think?
I think Teddy Bridgewater is just literally a placeholder. I think they're kind of worried that Drew's like hurt, like not hurt, but older, and so he might get hurt soon, or he might leave soon. So they just want to make sure they have someone in the back. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is going to start or be their franchise quarterback after that.
Here's my take on it. I think Teddy Bridgewater has the opportunity to be a franchise quarterback. I don't know if that's going to obviously be with New Orleans, but what I will say is, let's say this is Drew Brees' last year. I think they would extend Teddy, and they would probably draft somebody, and he would have the opportunity to go in and be the starter for the 2019 season if that happens. I think having him on the roster is a good move for the Saints. I think they gave up a little too much for him, but at the same time, they do have to think about who's going to be the replacement for Drew Brees, so I don't hate that. And I also think, Teddy proved to us, like in the 2 seasons that he started for Minnesota, that when he's healthy, he can be productive. So I really think it's a good move for them, because I don't think they had anybody behind Drew Brees. So like Jordan said, I think he's a really good placeholder. Like, if you need someone to go in and start, I think he's a guy who can do that and win games. So I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I thought it was a great move for New Orleans, and it may be also adversely a great move for the Jets because if Darnold's going to be the guy, and if you do want to feel that he is, ready to be thrusted into that situation, no matter how young or inexperienced he is, you might as well get some form of return for Teddy Bridgewater when you got another guy like Josh McCown on that roster as well. And talking about the Jets, what's kind of the ceiling for the Jets and particularly the Bills? Hertz, I can tell that by your indications, you're not very high on the prospects going on in Buffalo really whatsoever.
No.
I'm thinking Jets at best. I'm thinking the Jets at best are 8-9 wins, and that's like talking like really, really positive.
Right. For me, I think, if Sam Darnold goes in there and absolutely kills it, which, by the way, is going to be really hard to do because I look at that receiving core, and I'm like, who is it? I'm saying the ceiling is going to be 8-8 for New York. And Buffalo, I'm saying their ceiling is 5-11. Like, I think they're going to be god-awful this year. I think they're going to be the worst in the division, no doubt. I think that offensive line is horrendous. Like, they got Nathan 5 interceptions in the first half, Peterman.
Right, bro. I was
coming in.
Quarterback threw 5 picks and a half.
Yeah. Like, I'm not and he's got no one to protect him. He doesn't really have anyone to throw the ball to. I'm surprised they cut Corey Coleman, to be honest with you, because it's like, besides Kelvin Benjamin, who are you throwing the ball to? And so I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that organization, but they are just god awful. They lost Eric Wood. They traded Cordy Glenn. Like, they're going to be bad. They're just going to be bad. And LaShawn McCoy might be gone any minute. I think they have one of the worst rosters in the NFL. So 5-11 is their ceiling.
What do you think, Jordan? Over under 5?
I say under. I think their ceiling is like 4 games.
Yeah.
I really don't like their defense is above average, I would say. They have great corners, but like the thing is, it's like Michigan. How long can the defense stay on the field and like stay productive? You know what I mean? They can't keep busting offenses off the field constantly. This is gonna get scored on, and Nathan Peterman can't do anything.
Man, so I'm gonna go ahead and safely assume, as we've come to the prediction portion of this division, that we are all gonna be going with New England. Correct?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's not even a question. Unless Tom Brady tears his ACL or something, then the division's wide open. But I mean, yeah, as long as Tom Brady's healthy, it's New England's to lose.
As it seems like it always is. And maybe Darnold could be the guy to get the Jets into maybe contention for that division in years to come. However, yeah, it's still Tom Brady's world in the AFC East. Now moving on to the AFC North. This is a really interesting division for multiple reasons. It seems to be the Steelers' division to lose, and a lot of people are super high on the Steelers coming into this year. A lot of the consensus seems to be that these guys are Super Bowl or bust. Now, whether Le'Veon Bell reports seems to be an issue. Jordan, maybe give me an idea of how you think Pittsburgh could be, obviously at their best with Le'Veon, and what the hell they're going to do if Le'Veon, kind of continues this holdout.
With Le'Veon, this team is Super Bowl. Like, they're Super Bowl bound. There's no team that, besides the Patriots, that can contend with them. But in the playoffs, I think that the Steelers have more firepower and better defensive weapons. I think Jacksonville might give them a little bit of trouble, but besides that, I really think with Le'Veon Bell, this team is insane. But the holdout is really going to probably put a damper on the first couple weeks of the season. I really hope that he is able to get there and start week at least 2.
Week 2. So we feel like this is going to go on for a little bit. I tend to agree with you, to be honest with you. I don't see any type of really collateral agreement going on between the two parties right now. Hertz, what do you think?
I'm thinking the same thing. At the end of the day, he's going to play under the franchise tag. I think this is his last year in Pittsburgh. With that being said, though, when he does come back, like Jordan said, I mean, it's Pittsburgh's. Honestly, Pittsburgh is going to win the AFC as long as everyone can stay healthy. I definitely agree with that. Jacksonville's the only other contender I can think of. The other one maybe is like, we'll see how Kansas City does, but those are really the only contenders in my opinion. In terms of competing with the Steelers this year. So I agree with that, and I think they're going to be top 3 offense, no doubt. They could be the best offense in the league. I just think they're stacked, and this is going to be their year to go back to the Super Bowl. I really do think so. So no argument here.
It should be Super Bowl or bust for these guys. This is another division that seems to be a little bit top heavy as far as the juggernaut is concerned. Now that obviously one of the burning topics as far as franchises are concerned has to be revolved around the franchise that once again had the number one pick and seems like they are continuously in the shine for all of the wrong reasons, and that being the Cleveland Browns. Guys, quick question that is just a very simple one to gauge. Over under 6 wins for the Browns. Hertz, we'll go with you first.
I'm going to go 6 wins. So I think that's where they're going to end, because you look at it. I just watched the Hard Knocks episode, and they said that they have 59% of their roster is now changed. So I think the people that they added, they're going to win games. They're going to be competitive. So I'm going to say 6 wins, around like anywhere from 5 to 7 wins, I think is realistic. Anything under that, Hugh Jackson is getting fired. I think you have to win at least 5 games for him to keep his job. And that's the bottom line. I think, they're just going to be competitive no matter who they have at QB. So I'm thinking around 6.
Jordan, what do you think?
I think a little bit over. I think they could be 7-9 to 8-8. But that's also I'm buying into their team right now. I think that Jarvis Landry is going to be great. I think Jarvis Landry is going to be so good for them. Tyrod Taylor does not turn the ball over. And that's one of their biggest problems. Deshaun Kaiser turned the ball over a lot last year. Every quarterback they've had just those picks. Johnny Manziel, you can keep going. But I think this year with Tyrod Taylor holding down, I think Nick Chubb's going to step up in the backfield to overtake Duke Johnson. And I think that Jarvis Landry is going to carry that offense, especially with that great defense they have. I would say 500 at 8-8.
Yeah, and the only reason that I even say 6 and 10 is because it's just the Cleveland Browns. It's hard to give them any credit just because of their history. But at the same time, like when you look at that roster on paper, I'm not going to lie, I'm in love with their offense. Besides like maybe some offensive line issues, I'm in love with that offense. I think their defense still needs some more improvement. But again, this is going to be a team that competes. But I also think that, besides the Steelers, I think the Ravens and the Bengals are also going to be competitive around that 500 margin. So with that being said, it's hard to really predict who's going to come out of there second place. I really have no idea.
Yeah,
because I think they're all going to be around 500.
Days.
Yes, yeah, no, I think that's the ballpark certainly. To be honest with you, I wouldn't even be opposed to maybe saying that they could be somewhere between 4-12 and 5-11, just because the schedule is difficult. They got the Steelers right off the bat. I can't remember who their first 2 games are against, but I know for a fact you look at their first 2 games on their schedule, and as at least when I immediately look at it, I'm like, oh, that's a great opportunity to go 0-2. They have Pittsburgh first, and then they're at New Orleans week 2. That sounds tough.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
Then they get the Jets on Thursday night in week 3, so that'll be a solid opportunity to pick up a dub there. By the way, some breaking news just came across reported by Josina Anderson and ESPN. A little bit irrelevant to this division, but we were going to get into this. Apparently, one holdout's being ended today. Earl Thomas is going to report Seahawks camp today.
Interesting.
That's actually big for them.
That is huge.
That is so massive for the Seahawks. If they want any type of stability in a unit on the defensive side of the ball, being that everywhere else kind of was a fire sale, and even in the secondary a little bit, they now don't even have Chancellor or Richard Sherman. Earl Thomas is a guy you've got to have if you want to be competitive.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. No, yeah, we'll get into that. I heard that he was also. I know the Cowboys were talking about trading for him, but I don't know if that's going to happen. If I'm the Seahawks, I'm not trading him. I'm not doing it.
Makes all the sense in the world, though, being that he's a Texas guy, went to the University of Texas, who is formerly known as DBU, kind of. They used to have all kinds of amazing defensive backs come out of there, but now they're terrible. So. Nobody seems to be talking about the Baltimore Ravens, though. Talking about the AFC North. Is this a team that you guys think could compete for a playoff spot as a wild card? Jordan, go ahead and you give your take on that.
I think they are going to get the wild card 100%. I think they have 2 great running backs and Alex Collins. I forget the other dude's name. And
Javorius Allen, I believe.
Yeah. And then Joe Flacco either has to have a great year, or Lamar Jackson's right behind him. So I think with Flacco having that pressure, he's probably going to have a decent year. Not like the Super Bowl year, but I think they're going to make the playoffs.
What was your take on how much of Jackson did you see in the postseason, and what'd you think?
I saw a little bit of him. I think he looked decent. He looked like a rookie, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think he looked a lot better than I expected him to look.
I think he looked better in certain games. Oh, dude. Yeah. I mean, this guy scrambling. I could make a comprehensive case that Lamar Jackson, his junior season at Louisville, is a top 5 in individual season for a player in college football history. I mean, man, that guy was literally like playing Road to Glory on easy. Like he was unfucking stoppable. Like you could not. I remember when he played Syracuse, they were up like 56-0 with like 8 minutes left in the second quarter, and he had like 7 touchdowns in the first half. I mean, he was making that shit look so easy. It was almost, dude. He really was for a while. Like he had Vic-esque ability to scramble, and that's what he'd have to rely on. But you'd have to think, and Hertz, I'll ask you this: you would have to think if Lamar Jackson was going to be thrust into that situation on kind of short notice, the playbook has got to at least kind of accommodate his ability to scramble, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think they're going to have to change their playbook up. I don't think, but here's the thing. Here's what's interesting. I don't think Lamar Jackson is going to play at all this year because they already have RG3 announced as the backup this year, which is interesting.
Yeah,
and that's interesting. So I think they're in a position right now where they're saying, listen, this is Joe Flacco's team for this year. We obviously owe him like close to $30 million next year, so it's going to be kind of almost it's going to be his last year in Baltimore unless they obviously restructure a contract if he plays really well this year. So I don't think Lamar Jackson is going to get any playing time this year because I think the Ravens are around that 7-9 to 9-7, winning record. I think they're going to miss out on the playoffs because, I think the AFC West is going to have 2 people pull out, and I think the AFC South is going to have 2 people as well. But I think that's wide open. I think the Ravens are right there to take a wild card spot. It just is going to depend on a couple games. They're going to have to win some really good games, and that's how I look at it. So I don't think Lamar Jackson is going to. I don't think he's going to get any playing time this year. But I mean, his upside for next year is going to be unbelievable. So
interesting. And where do we think this leaves Joe Flacco, man? It seems like the guy that's getting the least amount of talk in Baltimore is the starter.
Yeah, no, yeah. I agree. I don't know. I think he leaves a really stale taste in everybody's mouth because he's one of those guys where he's not awful. He's won a Super Bowl, but he doesn't excite you at all. He's not fun to watch. And he's just plain. And where this leaves him, I think, is if he does good this year, it's going to give him an opportunity to start for a pretty bad team next year. I really think that's his ceiling. I don't know. It's interesting because no one is talking about him. And I mean, this is his team this year, but I don't know where he goes going forward, to be honest with you. I don't know.
That's interesting. Guys, what do we think as far as the prediction for this division? Are we all going Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Pittsburgh. So a couple of unanimous verdicts so far as we move into the AFC South. So I'm going to just ask it real quick. And Jordan, here's I'll start with you. Is this the worst division on paper?
Yeah, I think so. I was going over last night, and I just don't. It's the Titans and the Colts, man. They don't bring anything to the table right now. The Titans are decent, but I just really don't think Marcus Mariota is a good enough QB to get him back to where they were last year.
Hertz, you look like you're dying to interject.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. That's blasphemous, man. The AFC East is by far the worst division. Because think about it this way: I think the Texans are gonna steal a wild card spot. So I think Jacksonville's gonna win the division. But the Titans are like an 8-8 team, man. Like they're competitive. I think the only bad team in that division is the Colts. You look at it this way: like I said, if Tom Brady was to tear his ACL right now, that division in the AFC East would be wide open, and whoever won it would probably the division winner would probably be like 8-8. So that's by far the worst division. But like, if you have two teams that are going to make the playoffs, they're not the worst division in the NFL this year. So I don't think they are. I think that's the AFC East. But I do agree in the sense that I think they're one of the weaker divisions in the National Football League, but they're not the worst.
That's also like solely hinging on if your standpoint is that you are thinking that a Miami or someone that finishes second in the AFC East would get one of those wild cards. Am I correct?
Yeah, but they're not. I don't see any team besides New England going 500. Besides, yeah. I mean, so with that being said, they're the worst division in football, in my opinion, because I think the Texans are going to be above 500.
But Jordan, go back to kind of making that case, man. I mean, what makes this division the worst on paper?
I kind of agree with Ben with a little bit on that. Like, this East is pretty bad, but I mean, like, I just think the Titans are going to be bad this year. I really, like, in my personal opinion, I just think the Titans are going to be really, really, really bad. I don't think they're going to be like, I think they're going to be competitive in games. I think they're going to be like the Lions were when they were 0-16. Like, when they just constantly lost close games and, like, the quarterback couldn't get it done enough. I just think that's what it's going to be. But they're just going to win a couple of them.
Mariota's got question marks heading into this year. I think that's undeniable. And also a thing that I had a problem with as far as, like, you know, trying to better your franchise and make this team ready to win right now is Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel was hired as their head coach in the offseason, and I understand hiring Mike Vrabel. I definitely think that is a guy that could make a lot of teams good, but I'm not buying him fitting very well in Tennessee. I mean, especially when you have a quarterback like a Marcus Mariota who has all the tools, but Marcus Mariota is universally known as a guy that not only is not the best at communicating or being like an overly egregious leader for his team, but he's kind of shown that he's incapable of it at times. And Mike Vrabel is going to have to kind of step up and be the guy to not only rile up the offense, but to be a guy to make the offense work. And if we remember Mike Vrabel in the NFL, he played linebacker. So that's a guy that I think could make that defense well right away. But as far as if you have and personally with me, if you look at other teams around the league, you look at a team like a San Francisco, who obviously had Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan make things work. You look at a team like the LA Rams, who had Jared Goff and a Sean McVay make things work. The trend kind of going forward right now is young, fiery personalities at head coach to pair with young quarterbacks with a lot of upside. And for me personally, the Mike Vrabel hire didn't do it for me on that front.
Well, I'm going to have to agree that I don't think the Tennessee is going to go to the playoffs this year. But I think they're going to be competitive, man. I mean, they added Malcolm Butler. I think that defense is going to be pretty good. I do have questions on the offense. Like, I don't really know who Mariota's throwing the ball to. I think that they're going to – but I still think they're going to hover around that, 500 mark. I think they're going to be like anywhere from 6-10 to 8-8 personally. Like, I don't think they're going to tank. I think but that also depends on like how Andrew Luck is this year too. Because if he comes out there and he plays just as good as he did in his first 3 seasons, then I mean, it's wide open. I agree, but like, I don't know. I still think Tennessee is going to be really competitive this year. Like, I don't think they're going to fall off the map.
Oh, man. I mean, lots of different quarterback questions, too, from each respective team. I think you got to wonder, is Andrew Luck's obviously the guy, but how healthy can he remain? Obviously, we highlighted the things about Mariota. Is Blake Bortles the future in Jacksonville? Who really knows? And then it brings me to Deshaun Watson. Jordan, we'll start with you. When Deshaun Watson is healthy, we know the potential, but can he be as good as perceived?
If from what we've seen, when he's healthy, that man's a superstar. I think he can be top 5 in the league. I think he's like basically what we saw in Michael Vick, but just named Deshaun Watson. I think he's really good. I think he's really mobile. His arm is amazing. I think him and D-Hop are gonna tear it up this year.
Oh yeah.
What do you think?
No argument, man. I think Deshaun Watson, if he's healthy for 16 games, we're talking about a potential MVP candidate. He's gonna. I mean, I see him throwing 40 touchdowns if he's healthy. I think he's a stud. Like he's a stud. Like there's nothing else to say about him other than like I really think he's going to be the reason why Houston's going to grab a wild card spot. Like that's my personal opinion. I think he's just going to be phenomenal. So yeah, like I think if he's healthy, but I have questions on the offensive line, so they got to make sure that they keep him healthy. But yeah.
Hey, so we got some guys joining us. It looks like. Hey, we got a question from a young fan named Kevin Goff. Hello, Mr. Goff. Mr. Goff would like to ask: is Joe Flacco elite?
No.
He knows that question. He knows the answer to that question already. Joe Flacco is. I mean, why do you think they went out and got Lamar Jackson? You know, I mean, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. He's borderline a starter. So, I mean, no.
Yeah, not even any like shade to Lamar Jackson, but any starting quarterback in this league is way above Lamar Jackson. Baker, I think you said this the other night. Like it's kind of sad that like you can like even with Lamar Jackson in third string, we're still talking about him starting. Like he could start next year over Joe Flacco, just because.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably the case. And moving on to kind of maybe the betterment of Jacksonville or Houston, when both teams are at their best, it seems that they'll both have one of the better defenses in the NFL. But my question is to both of you, and I'll ask Jordan first. Whose defense has a higher ceiling when fully healthy? Is it Jacksonville or Houston?
Jacksonville's. The corners, the D line, that team's stacked. That's like one of the best defenses we've ever seen. We'll ever see. That defense, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely zero argument for me. I think in terms of defensive ends, Houston might have them beat if J.J. Watt's healthy. And I mean, I obviously like adding Tyrann is it Tyrann Mathieu? Is that how you used to pronounce it? Yeah. So Tyrann Mathieu. I think they're going to be really good this year in terms of defense. But like the corner duo, I mean, I take both of them over the starting corners in Houston. Their linebacking core is ridiculous. Their defensive front, like their defensive tackles are great. They have the best defense in the NFL. And I think Houston is cracking top 10 best defenses in the NFL. I think they're like at like 8, in my opinion. So I think they're a good defense. Don't get me wrong, but no, it's Jacksonville. No question.
Predictions for this division, my friends. Obviously, as I've highlighted, we got different question marks in different areas, and some teams have higher ceilings than others, as would be the case for really any 14 division in the NFL. But this one's a little more interesting, especially because I don't think there's any clear-cut favorite. Potentially Jacksonville, depending on how much stock you put in their defense. Guys, what do we think? I personally am going to go with Jacksonville to get it done. Ben, do you agree?
Yeah, so I think I'm predicting Jacksonville goes 12-4 just because of that defense. I have always been more of a Blake Bortles guy than a lot of other people. I've always believed in him to not be as bad as everyone says. I don't think he's elite. He kind of reminds me of like a Joe Flacco, but he can win games. Not elite. So I'm going – this is my order. I think Jacksonville, Houston goes 10-6 with a wild card spot. I'm predicting the Titans to go 7-9, and then I'm predicting the Indianapolis Colts to go 4-12. So that's my prediction.
Jordan, what do we got from you?
I kind of agree. Jacksonville's going to be not head over heels of everybody in this division, but they're going to go 12-4. That defense is ridiculous. Blake Bortles is not good, but he's going to get it done this year. I think a little bit better than last year. I think he's going to get more touchdowns with the ball down the field a little bit more. I would definitely say I think Houston will win a wild card off of that with like 10-6, 9-7. But hey,
let's be honest though, he played well against the Patriots.
He did play well against the Patriots, but there wasn't many games that we saw him where like, wow, Blake Bortles was winning this game. Like it was like, wow, the defense is going nuts. And then let's see what Leonard Fournette's about to do. You know what I mean?
Got Flacco stuck in our heads.
Yeah, Flacco's really in my head right now.
So we got a unanimous verdict on all divisions so far. Pat, Steelers, and Jaguars are all coming out of our respective divisions. And now we move into the division of Jordan's choosing, the AFC West. I see him on the little camera putting his face in his palms, and I obviously got to ask you, man, to start it off. And I'm not trying to hit home with it because I know how much it means to you for that they are successful. Your Oakland Raiders made headlines this week. Just kind of give people a little bit of a sense from a diehard fan like yourself of the Raiders. How detrimental will that loss of Khalil Mack be for that defense?
Well, 2 weeks ago, if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago what's going to happen with this division and what the Raiders are going to do, I would say the Raiders are going 11-5. That defense was looking great. Garyon Conley was coming out. He was looking nice. We have decent D tackles now. Bruce Irvin's looking good. Our CVs are going good. And then we drop our best player. He's gone. And now we have no leader on defense besides maybe Bruce Irvin, but I don't know if he's going to step up like that. This isn't his team. One of our voices in the locker room is gone, and John Gruden is just kind of doing what he wants to do.
Yeah, I mean, do you think it's Gruden's doing? Because personally, I don't think Gruden walked into that situation and kind of stormed the castle and told everybody, "Hey, we're going to trade Khalil Mack." But I think once kind of communication has been severed to the point that it was, you either let him walk for free or you get what you're gonna get out of him, if that makes sense. I think people are kind of like taking this and running with the idea that Gruden walked in from day one and knew that this was going to happen, and I don't think that's true whatsoever.
No, that's not true. But like, he wanted to sign Khalil Mack, but he didn't want to. He didn't want to give him Aaron Donald money. He didn't want to give him the. He would want to pay him as much as he wanted to. He wanted to build another like a bigger team around him. I think next year when we go to Vegas, he's going to chop half the roster in half.
What do you think, Ben? What do you think, Ben? The loss is obviously detrimental, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, having us talk when we talked kind of in depth about this division in particular on the fantasy football podcast of ours, correct me if I'm wrong, I remember that you were not as high on this team.
So I actually like Oakland in terms of, like, I've always wanted them to be successful. I remember last year I predicted them to win the division, and I was really wrong. I'm not high in them this year at all. To be honest with you, I think they're going last in the division. I think they're going 6-10. Okay, but hear me out here. Hear me out. I love their offensive line. I love their quarterback, and I love their wide receiving core. I'm sorry. Did you say their secondary was going to be good? Leon Hall, so you're going to tell me right now that Keenan Allen, that Leon Hall is going to be, for 2 games, he's going to be able to guard Keenan Allen. No, not going to happen. No one is going to do that. Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, it's not going to happen. I think their secondary is going to get shredded. You lose Khalil Mack. I think their defensive line now is going to be in a lot of question. I just have a lot of concerns for this defense. I think the offense is going to be good, but again, their running game is stale to me. I'm going to rank them like 25th in rushing this year. I think their pass game is going to be top 10, but like, other than that, there's nothing really for me to get excited about this year with Oakland. I think they're going to be around the same that they were last year. I mean, I was a huge fan of the John Gruden signing, but like, everything that they've done so far has just had me scratching my head. Like, what are they doing? I don't know. That's my personal opinion. Losing Khalil Mack is huge, because before that I had them around 8-8, 9-7, and now you lose Khalil Mack, I'm putting them to like 6-10.
Dude, I think Jordan will tell you best too. They got to intercept the fucking pass.
Yeah, I mean, our corners, they were getting better. I think we would have been a lot better this year, especially with Khalil Mack getting the pressure with Maurice Hurst and
yeah,
I can't remember his name.
Mo Hurst is a guy that I'm excited to see.
Yeah, I think we would have been all right this year, but I'm not high on us either anymore. Not at all.
Yeah.
The last is the stretch, I think. You got Denver in that division.
Yeah. And I definitely think they're going to be competing for third. I just think that when you look at it from a defensive side of the ball, I think they're going to be able to beat Oakland. I also think that, I'm not huge on Case Keenum, but like, I think they're going to be able to move the ball enough to be really competitive with Oakland and competing for third. I think they're both going to place around the same, and it could be give and take. But I think it's the Chargers and the Chiefs competing for the AFC West, in my opinion. Like I think that's just how it is this year.
And what
100%.
what we kind of touched on that podcast that we did together, Ben, is like, this division is so interesting, at least to me, maybe less to others, because it seems that on paper every team is going to excel at something differently. Like the Chargers, you could argue, have the best offensive line play. I think the Raiders' offensive line isn't too far away. I think the Chiefs probably have the most weapons. The Broncos have the best defense, certainly have the best pass rush. And as far as the Raiders are concerned, I think they have the most solid and solidified passing game. So it seems like on paper each team brings a different strength to the table, and that's why I think this division is going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think. And to be honest with you, if you ask me, I wouldn't be surprised really if anyone wins this division, especially if Derek Carr, if the Raiders can intercept just a few passes and Derek Carr can get back to MVP form, because he didn't play bad last year, but I don't think he played as up to par that he did 2 years ago. If he gets that ball rolling again like they were 2 years ago, and just like as if maybe Denver starts sacking the quarterback 5-6 times a game with Bradley Chubb. Can you imagine Bradley Chubb and Von Miller coming off both of those edges? Jeez.
That's going to be rough.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you. I think it's wide open, except I just think the Chiefs have too many weapons to not win the division. In my opinion, I think especially on the offensive side of the ball, they've got 2 solidified wide receivers. They've got the second best tight end in the game. They've got Kareem Hunt, who is terrific. I mean, I have questions on the offensive line, but man, Patrick Mahomes is going to go off. I think he's going to immediately go to the Pro Bowl. And I don't know, man. I think he's going to immediately go off. Did you see him in the preseason? Like, did you watch him in the preseason? Because he played well.
Dog,
he played really well.
There's no reason for me to be concerned with an Andy Reid combination with a quarterback that has a big arm. There's absolutely zero history in the past to deter me from thinking that that's going to work.
Not concerned, but Pro Bowl, man, oof.
Yeah, immediately. I think he's immediately going to go and throw like high 20s, low 30s.
Well, then he would have to. If he's going to go to the Pro Bowl, he would have to be kind of ahead of guys like Tom and Big Ben. Obviously, one of those guys is going to be in the Super Bowl, so they'll leave up a roster spot. But you got Andrew Luck as well. So yeah, that's some elite company we're putting him in.
I think he just belongs there. I mean, we haven't seen him though. That's the problem. Like it's hard to gauge anything when you haven't seen him. But I just looking at him from the preseason, he clicks really well with them.
It's also difficult to prepare for someone with no tape.
Yeah,
exactly.
Jordan, it seems that Mr. Hertz has the Chiefs to win this division. Do you agree with him?
No, I think this is the Chargers division to lose. I think the Chargers are not the most talented, but I think they are the best team, if that makes sense. Like, they know how to get it done. They win in close games. The only problem is the young Hoku is the really big issue.
That's the best name of anyone in the NFL.
They need to get rid of him, and they need to, if they figure out if Melvin Gordon can stay healthy and Keenan Allen is healthy, Phillip Rivers is stone like he is, the cornerbacks are as good as they've been.
The pass rush.
And that pass rush stays as good as that. Like, I would say it
that's
doesn't have to be crazy. That pass rush has to be good. Pass rush needs to be good. That defense is solid enough to kind of 3 and out them.
I don't think that pass rush is going to be in question too, because I hate to slight anyone else in that division as far as a pass rush is concerned. Whenever I kind of put in the forefront that Von Miller and Bradley Chubb are the guys that are going to be the most dangerous. Melvin Ingram and Bosa too. I mean, that's a scary proposition for anybody. I'm going to have to agree with Jordan. I'm going to go with the Chargers here. I do think the Chiefs definitely could win the division. To be honest with you, if you're going to ask me who I could probably bet money on who I'm sure is not going to win the division, I'm going to have to say it's Denver. Case Keenum in a situation with an offense under a coach like Vance Joseph, who could be definitely feeling the pressure by week 8 or 9 if they're not winning games. And now that he's kind of been removed from a situation with Pat Shurmur, who not only isn't even with the Vikings anymore, but now he's the he's the head coach with the Giants. He looked really comfortable in that system and better than he ever had, honestly, in his career. And I think that might deter him from succeeding going forward. Like I said, I think this could be this is either the Chiefs or the Chargers division, in my opinion. I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders snag a wild card spot, to be honest with you, solely off if Derek Carr can be back to MVP form.
I agree.
However, I'm gonna go with LA here.
Yeah, and I have no problem with that either, because I think the 2 wild card spots are going to go to the Chargers and the Texans. So I have no problem with you guys saying that, because I think they're going to be right there competing with them. And I also agree. I think Oakland, as long as they have a good offense, I mean, they're going to be competitive every game. So it's really hard to gauge. But like I definitely think the ceiling is higher for Oakland than it is Denver. So I don't have a problem with you saying that like Denver's going to go last at all, because I could see that happening.
So Chargers and Texans are your 2 AFC wild cards, Mr. Hertz. Now that we have come to the end of the AFC, we're all unanimously in agreement on the Patriots, Steelers, and Jaguars winning their respective divisions. And Jordan and I are the same across the board as far as the divisions are concerned, with the only exception being Ben taking the Chiefs, Chargers, and Texans as his wild cards. Jordan, who you got taking wild cards in the AFC?
I'm going to say it's going to be probably, I think, Houston, Kansas City.
You got the Texans and the Chiefs?
Houston, Kansas City, and then...
That's it. You only got 2 wild cards.
Yeah, I know. I'm just looking at my notes, questioning myself. My bad. Yeah, Houston, Kansas City.
No, you good, man. And I, to be honest with you, a team that we previously talked about, I think, is going to sneak in there. I'm not as high on the Texans, to be honest with you, as you guys are. I think Kansas City gets in there as well with the wild card, but I also like Baltimore. I think they're a well-coached bunch. I think that defense is going to come ready to go, and they look a little experienced. Maybe not kind of on the defensive things with Joe Flacco being elite per se, but I think they have enough pieces to get it done and sneak in to play whoever is 3rd or 4th divisionally. So let's move on to the NFC. The NFC East, let's start there. Really interesting division, and I think a lot of people really aren't sure about 3/4 of it. We all know that the Eagles should be pretty solid, but the question is, how solid can they be with a Nick Foles that, I know it's the preseason, but man, he's looked awful. Ben, start with you.
Yeah, so I mean, Nick Foles is one of those guys where I think he is going to frustrate you in games, and then in other games he's going to wow you. I think that's kind of been like the story of his career, because he started off that way, and then he went to St. Louis and was terrible, and then he comes back here and immediately he's doing good. He's just very like back and forth. He's going to have those games where he's bad, and he's going to have those games where he goes off. So I'm not worried if he has to start the first couple games for Philly. I think that he can win them games, but I also think he can lose them games. So it's interesting, because it is you're gonna have to rely on him to do well, and I think he has the opportunity to do that. But against good defenses, he's gonna struggle too. So you want to get Carson Wentz out there as fast as you can, but I predict Foles starting the first 2 games, and then they're gonna go to Wentz. That's my prediction, and I think they're gonna win the division. So,
what do we think?
I'd agree with you 100%. I think, Nick Foles is just like, he's not good, he's not bad. He can go off like we saw him in the Super Bowl, or he can play terrible like we saw him against the Raiders at home on Christmas Day. So like, it could go either way. But he definitely win. I think he could win 1 out of the 2 games that he's going to start, and then Carson's going to come in and do his Carson thing.
Yep. No argument here. I think they're going to be, a 13-3, 12-4 team. And I don't think there's any team in the NFC East who really can compete with them, because I think the other 3 teams are teams that are vying for a wild card spot. But there's no team in the NFC East besides the Eagles that I say, oh, they're going to go and win 12 games. Like this, I don't see that with any of the other teams. So that's why it makes it so difficult, because it's like I don't really know who's going to go out second. But, I mean, I do have predictions, so.
And what might that well, I mean, I have a couple more things I want to touch on before I ask you about that, to be honest with you. First off, being with Alex Smith, man. With the trade sending him from Kansas City into Washington, I feel like a lot of people might be overlooking him, especially with how like the new era has been ushered in over at Arrowhead with Patrick Mahomes. It seems like a lot of people are maybe not doubting, but kind of forgetting that Alex Smith is the guy that is as good of a game manager as you're going to get in the NFL as far as the box score is concerned. Jordan, what do you think Alex Smith could do in Washington this season?
I think Alex Smith is a decent quarterback. I just don't think that he's going to come out his first year in Washington and light it up. I don't think he's going to try to prove anyone wrong. I think their ceiling is like 6 games. I don't see Washington doing anything really big with Alex Smith back there.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. I think Smith I definitely think people are sleeping on him to do good. I think he had his best season last year, so I think he's going to play just as well as he did last season. The problem is the supporting cast he has. I mean, obviously losing Darius Geis isn't going to help anything. I'm not wowed by the receiving core. I think their ceiling is 8 games. So, I mean, I'm right there with Jordan. Like, I don't think they're making the playoffs. I think they're going to be a team that competes. They're going to be a team that upsets some teams, but they're going to be a team that also loses games where you're just scratching your head. I think Washington's going to be right there in the middle.
Yeah, I think that seems fair. And a couple of teams that do have a lot of question marks going into this season has got to be Dallas and the Giants. I think a fun question to kind of have for a debate would be about the 2 running backs. Who do you guys think, as far as a career is concerned, we've seen the sample size of how Zeke can be, and obviously he is an elite level running back when healthy and when on the field. But who has the higher ceiling for their career as a whole? Is it Ezekiel Elliott or could it be Saquon Barkley, Jordan?
I think it's Zeke. I think Barkley's really good, but he didn't show us anything at Penn State with him handling a super large workload. Like, yeah, he got like those super short bursts running downfield. That offense was really kind of just not meant for him to run the ball constantly. And
I think a lot of people overlook that, man. That's a good point.
I think that Zeke is running the ball constantly. Like, pretty much he was the reason that Dallas was going to the playoffs. And I just don't think Saquon can be better than him.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ben?
I'm right there with him. Not to mention the offensive line too. Like, yeah. Zeke just has the better offensive line. I think he's going to lead the league in rushing this year. I really just think Zeke is just an all-star. And not to say that Saquon's not going to – I think Saquon's going to go out there right away and have like 1,200 rushing yard season. I think he's going to be great. But when you look at the ceiling, I just look at the supporting cast. I mean, Zeke is running behind the best offensive line. I think that he's better in the receiving game than Saquon might be able to be. That's to be determined. I don't really know. It's hard to gauge that when you haven't even seen Saquon play at all in the league. So, but I just think right now it's Zeke until proven otherwise.
And I think we touched on it a little bit already, and I was getting ready to ask, but I wasn't trying to get a little too ahead of myself. The prediction in this division, is it unanimous, or are we all believing that the Eagles repeat as NFC East champions, or do we have something different in mind?
I think the Eagles are winning it.
Yeah. No argument for me here. I think that's what it is.
Moving on to the NFC North. Another interesting division kind of on paper. I think definitely the addition of the aforementioned Khalil Mack to Chicago makes things a little bit interesting at Soldier Field. But let me say something about this trade, to be honest with you, because from the Bears standpoint, I need you guys to understand what in my opinion this trade is telling me the Bears believe. By the Bears not only putting all of that money into him, sending 2 first-round picks to the Raiders, when it's not like they're sending 2 first-round picks that are going to be between 15 and 32. The Bears are going to be bad. So those picks are going to be very high. Unless what the Bears seem to be thinking comes true. I think what this trade tells me more than anything else is that if the Bears are going to send their 2 first-round picks that they know have a potential to be really high, I don't think it gives the narrative of anything other than these guys believe in Mitch Trubisky at an exponentially high level. Because if you're going to send your opportunity to get the best talent out of the pool from college right away for the next 2 years, I mean, clearly it's because you think you have an opportunity to win now. Am I wrong?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think of it in the same light. Like, I hate to say it, but I disagree when you say that they're gonna be bad this year, because
Wow.
you think about it this way. The Eagles, like in Carson Wentz's rookie season, like Carson Wentz didn't really stand out. You're like, okay, he had an average rookie season. And I would say the same with Mitch Trubisky. Obviously, it wasn't great. Same thing with Jared Goff. He was awful his rookie season. I think Mitch Trubisky immediately is going to show us that he is a really good quarterback in this league. I mean, he's going to have weapons that he didn't have last year. You're going to have Allen Robinson. You're going to have Trey Burton, who I think is actually going to be an outstanding tight end this year. You're going to have Jordan Howard to run the ball. And you just solidified another huge piece of your defense. And you also drafted Roquan Smith. I think they have an opportunity to be a top 12 defense. And I think the offense is being overlooked. I think they can really become a better offense, and they're hovering around the 500 mark now, I think, this year.
Wow, okay, hovering around the 500 mark. That's an interesting prediction for the Bears, at least, because, I mean, at least in my opinion, I think they're the worst team on paper in that division. I think Green Bay's better. I think Minnesota's better, and I think Detroit could probably be better.
I don't think so anymore. And I'm a Detroit fan, but I'm a Detroit fan, and I'm going to sit here and say that I think the Bears might be able to edge us out now. It's either the Lions or Bears are going fourth, in my opinion. But I just look at the upside with them. Like, we don't have a Khalil Mack on the defensive side. We don't have that. I think we have a better offense, definitely. But, like, when it comes to defense, I think we're going to be top 5 worst rushing defenses. And you know, that doesn't win football games. I think the Lions are going to lose the games that we are expected to lose, and we're going to win the games that we're expected to win. And that's going to draw us out to around 6-10, unfortunately.
What do you think, Jordan? Are we off on how we think? Because I mean, I think the Packers and Vikings are the class of the division for sure. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think the Packers are head and shoulders above the division. To be honest, I think the Packers are going to be really good this year. But I really don't think the Bears are going to go above 6 games. I like Trubisky. I think he's going to have a decent year this year. But I just really don't see them going above 6 games.
I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest with you. I think there's still a lot of holes. That linebacking core obviously looks good now with Khalil Mack and Roquan Smith. Ugh.
Yeah.
That's got some potential going forward. But, I mean –
Danny Trevathan, too.
Yeah, oh, my God. I mean, that defense is starting to take place, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I personally have Minnesota winning the division with Green Bay getting a wild card spot. So I think Minnesota is going to go 12-4, and I think Green Bay is going 11-5 right behind them. Then I'm predicting the Bears go 7-9 and the Lions go 6-10. That's what I'm predicting right now.
Interesting, man. Jordan, you got the Packers?
I got the Packers at 12-4, and then Vikings 10-6. Lions, I think, will be super competitive, but I just don't think they're going to win enough. So I think they're going to hit like 7-9, and then Bears like 6-10ish.
You know, we've the unanimous verdict streak of Jordan and I think is going to be snapped here, and I'm gonna go with Ben on this one. I think the Packers and Vikings, though, are clearly the 2 teams that are going to be gunning for it all year. I think both of those teams are definitely the 2 best as far as the division is concerned, and I don't have any reason to believe otherwise that those 2 games between the 2 are going to be the decider ultimately at the end of the day. But I do think the Vikings will get it done. The question with the Vikings is, though, How is that offense going to look now with not only Kirk Cousins under center, but now that they lose offensive coordinator Pat Shurmur, who kind of made things go round for them? I don't know. The safe bet might be Green Bay here, to be honest with you, but I really like that defense in Minnesota, and I think they're going to be fired up.
Yeah. I want to add something with that. Like, I agree, losing Pat Shurmur is not great. But who they added the Philadelphia Eagles quarterback coach as their new offensive coordinator. I think that's a good hire. Not to mention, I mean, you're going to have Dalvin Cook now for 16 games, we hope. And I think he has the potential to be a really, really good running back in this league. And then not to mention, I've always been high on Kirk Cousins. He has the weapons. He has no excuse. He has the offensive line. He has literally no excuse. I look at the Vikings team as a whole, and they just have the most complete team. I look at the Packers, and they've got some question marks on the defensive side of the ball. And so, like, obviously Aaron Rodgers is better than Kirk Cousins. There's no discussion about that. But it's just a thing of, like, it's a team game at the end of the day, and I think the Vikings are going to edge them out.
And now moving on to the NFC South. I don't know, man. I mean, in contrast to their AFC South neighbors, per se, and how we kind of led into that discussion talking about if that division was or was not the worst on paper, this division to me looks like it could be the best. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. This team looks like all the teams look crazy. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh you're fine. Honestly, like, and I agree with Jordan. I think all of them have the potential to be good because even Tampa Bay, who's in my opinion the worst team in that league, like, they're going to be competitive this year, especially with Jameis Winston fighting for his career in Tampa Bay. And I know you wanted to talk about that, so we're definitely going to get into that. I just think every team. I mean, last year they had 3 teams go to the playoffs, and I could see that happening again if it wasn't for the fact that Green Bay is coming back. So it's hard to really gauge what's going to happen there, but definitely the most stacked division in the NFL, in my opinion, this year.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
I think so too. This Jordan, is this or is this not the best division of quarterbacks as well? I think all 4 of them are solid, and we'll get into Jameis, but on paper it seems like that's the case.
Oh yeah, 100%. Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, Cam Newton. Like, there's nothing bad you can say about him besides maybe you don't like the way Cam Newton does press conferences. There's nothing really bad you can say about him.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think when you're looking at it, though, when you're looking at a complete team, if I had to pick, do we want to go into, like, division winners right now, or do we want to talk a little bit more about the NFC South?
I definitely want to touch on Jameis for sure.
Okay.
Is time running out on Jameis Winston? I believe it might be, especially if we keep hearing about, headlines of him doing things off the field or whatever they may be, and take in whatever capacity you'd like about whatever accusations have come to light, and whether you think him stealing crab legs from Publix is a big deal or not is up to you. However, it seems like time is not only running out, but patience is running thin for Jameis Winston down in Tampa. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think I like Jameis Winston. I think he could be really good, but I just don't think he's going to be worth the headache for them. He's not going to be there for the first couple games this season, and this season's going to be one of the more competitive seasons, and they're going to lose the first couple games because of it. I just don't. Yep. I don't think he's going to be worth it in the long run.
What do you think, Ben?
I'm in agreement, and the problem here is that even when Jameis is going to be active for those 13 games, you're just looking at a division that's so stacked, and it's going to be so hard to win. Their defense isn't good, and I don't think they're going to really improve on their record at all. I think they're going to be like 5-11 again. I think Jameis is going to play well. He might play the best he's ever played in those 13 games because he is fighting for his career in Tampa. But you're right. I mean, if there's one more story that leaks out, like he's done in Tampa, it just sucks. It's his 4th year, and if he doesn't do something in this year, I mean, yeah, he'll probably be done. It's hard to really gauge what's going to happen there because I think he's really talented. He's got a lot of upside when it comes to the football field, but like if I'm Tampa, I'm looking and I'm like, there's definitely some quarterbacks that we could pick up next offseason that could help us, and we don't need to deal with the headache of Jameis. So Jameis is going to have to play his ass off in those 13 games. Like, he's going to have to win them football games, because if he doesn't, I agree, he could be out.
Yeah. I actually, I won't name any names, but I do know somebody that went to Florida State that actually was in the student union and like sitting like 3 tables away whenever he was at Florida State, and jumped on top of the table and screamed "fucker" right in the pussy as loud as he could. So the maturity is a little bit of a question mark, I think, for sure. Especially when, like, dude, come on. Like, you just won the Heisman. Like, people are going to talk about that. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, no, also the other thing about that is like, Jameis hasn't gone 500 yet, has he? No.
I think that 1 year, I think 2 years ago they were, or if not, they were right at 500.
I think they were close. I think they were pretty close.
I think they were like 7-9.
Remember when they played on Sunday night against the Cowboys, and it was like a huge game, and both teams were like kind of vying for playoff position a little bit? You guys know what game I'm talking about, and the Buccaneers were in it, but they ended up losing. Because this was the year because 2 years ago the Cowboys were just running rampant with that offensive line. I'm looking to fact check this right now, just to make sure. I think if they weren't 8-8, they were 7-9.
Yeah, I think I was talking about
2016, because last year they were 5-11. 2016 they were 9-7.
Oh, okay. So they did reach 500. Yeah, right. Okay, so they're I just don't see them doing that now that New Orleans has a good defense, and I think like that division is just stacked. So I think Jameis is going to at least have to play at a Pro Bowl caliber for him to save his job, and he just has to stay out of trouble. If he stays out of trouble, then, maybe. But you're right. There are some maturity issues, and Tampa Bay has to figure out if they have other options that they could go to at the QB position. So
I think this round of predictions is going to be the juiciest one. I think we could end up all with different ones, to be honest with you. But I will go ahead and I will go ahead and start with Jordan. Who wins the NFC South?
The Saints win it. Panthers come in second. That's
what I have going. What do you think, Ben?
So I think the Saints are going to win it, and then taking a wild card spot is the Atlanta Falcons. So I think I look at that offense and I'm thinking they weren't good last year for whatever reason, but you have two starting running backs that you're going to have splitting carries. You picked up Calvin Ridley, so you've got Calvin Ridley, Sanu, and Julio Jones to throw the ball to. I think Matt Ryan is going to win them football games, and I see the Falcons going around 11-5. I think the Saints are going to be like 12-4, and then I see the Panthers going like 9-7, 8-8, and then the Buccaneers falling off. So I think the Panthers are just going to miss out just on competition. I think they're beat on the offensive line. I think the offensive line is going to lose them games because I think Cam's going to struggle at games and he's going to do really good in games. And then I just have questions on their defense too, on their secondary and stuff. So I just think the Panthers are going to lose competitive games, and that's why they're going to lose out to the Falcons.
Oh, man. I mean, this was the division I felt like we were going to all have different answers on, but we're all unanimous, man. I like New Orleans. I like New Orleans as well. I mean, they say great minds think alike. I think somebody said that at some point. And, there's a whole lot to like about the Saints, the Falcons, and the Panthers, to be honest with you. But, I'm going to go with New Orleans. And then the last division we have is the NFC West. Dude, case in point, in my opinion, the Los Angeles Rams are the best team in the NFL on paper right now, given the acquisitions they made in the offseason. Hertz, am I crazy, or do you agree?
Absolutely. I'm all in. I think if I had to make a prediction right now of, the Super Bowl, I'm going the Los Angeles Rams and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Way to spoil the end, bro.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Fuck, I ruined that one. You know what? But, honestly, screw it. I'm so high on the Rams this year. I'm ridiculously high. I mean, they could go 15-1. I know that sounds ridiculous, but you look on paper, they've got one of the best offensive lines. They've got a quarterback who proved that is so much better than he was his rookie season. I think he's only going to get better. They improved their wide receiving group, which wasn't even bad last year. It was good. You got Todd Gurley, arguably the best running back in the game. Then you have a defense where you added Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters. Are you shitting me? And Ndamukong Suh. I mean, no. I mean, this team, as long as you can have the only concern I have with the Rams is the personalities. Like, because you got some big names on that defense. Like, you got Sue and you got Talib. Like, how are they going to get along? As long as the chemistry is good there and they're all about winning football games, I mean, they're going to be 14-2, 15-1. I think they're going to be like ridiculous this year.
Yeah, I agree. This is literally, if you wanted to see an NBA super team in the NFL, this is what you would write down. Like, this is a team you would draft like on Madden. This is ridiculous. I don't know how they did it, but if they don't go 14-2 into the Super Bowl, then this team should be like Sean McVay should be gone. This is like a cakewalk for them.
I don't know about
this
that.
It's a cakewalk for them. Well, I mean, obviously that's an exaggeration, but like it's a disappointment to every LA Ram fan if they are not in the Super Bowl. They should be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I would say that that's fair. I think they look so good on paper, and we kind of talked about it right before we went live. I mean, we talked about your Lions, Hertz. We talked about your Raiders, Jordan, and my Niners are, as far as the consensus view looks, I mean, a lot of people are super high on them, and I should have all the reason to be as well, given whatever degree of bias people believe that I would have. However, I like to keep it real, and I like to say that I do not really see that. I think they are 8-8 at best. I think the boys in the Bay still have a lot of holes to fill. Obviously, handing the ball off to Alfred Morris now that McKinnon is out is no ideal situation. It might have been maybe next to ideal 4 years ago, but not anymore. And outside of Pierre Garçon, which can you believe? Like, I'm like saying outside of Pierre Garçon, like Pierre Garçon is our number one option to throw the ball to. I mean, this team's got problems.
Hey, for anybody who didn't watch the podcast before, I just want to like reiterate this. I would love, and if anyone has any of it, I would love to get some. I'd pay a lot of money for the crack that was smoked when the 49ers signed Pierre Garçon to a 5-year, $50 million deal. Like, I'd love to get a hold of that crack, bro.
Yeah.
0 touchdowns last year, 500 receiving yards. Garbage.
Not a number one option, man.
No.
Not
I was
at this
really high in
stage.
this team a couple of weeks ago, but I really don't think so. I don't think so now.
Yeah.
And Marquise Goodwin is the number 2 guy. I mean, oh my God, come on, man. We can do better than you can do better than that as a franchise. I think the defense is going to be actually pretty good. I think the secondary in particular is going to be pretty solid. Linebackers, we'll see, and the offensive line will be much improved. But again, you got Garoppolo and a whole lot of landfill outside of him on offense. I don't think there are hardly any weapons for him to work with. As far as the rest of the division is concerned, really the quarterbacks are in shine with both of the other teams. Sam Bradford's probably going to be the guy to start it out in Arizona. But how long do you guys think it might be until we see Josh Rosen, Jordan?
I'd say 3-4 weeks max. Not that I don't think Sam Bradford's going to be good. I think he's going to be decent for them, but I just think that they're ready for Rosen to come in and start. I think Rosen is ready to come in and start as well, and I think with David Johnson, Larry Fitz, he has some decent weapons. I think he should be decent.
I think I was sitting right next to you the other night at our fantasy draft whenever you asked me about it. And I had to kind of dig deep a little bit to find out the answer. And it seems that the consensus is that it's not a matter of if Josh Rosen takes the keys this year. It's more of a matter of when.
I disagree.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think Josh Rosen is going to get his first start in 2019. And but I know that sounds ridiculous, but everyone takes a nice nap on Sam Bradford, and I get that because he's always been injured. I get that. But I'm telling you what, the Vikings last year would have been in the same position they were if Sam Bradford started all 16 games. They'd be in the same exact position. And I really think that this Arizona Cardinals team is slept on a lot. I think they're going to go second in the NFC West. because Sam Bradford he's good, man. And like, if you think about it, having Josh Rosen sit for a year, and by the way, I'm not a fan of Josh Rosen, the way that he handled himself when he was drafted, saying that the other teams made mistakes and stuff. There's some maturity issues there. I'd have him sit a year. I'd have him sit a year. You liked it?
Yeah, I personally like when quarterbacks put chips on their own shoulders, man. I think it, especially in a position like the quarterback position, I think it definitely helps when your guy, even if he shouldn't be, feels a little bit slighted. I think that's something that Arizona kind of looked at and be like, we'll take a dink on the PR side as far as that's concerned. But I love it if I'm Arizona, to be honest with you.
But I love Josh Rosen. I think he's going to be really a quarterback in this league. But here's the thing: I think Sam Bradford is going to go out there and win them football games and play well, which is going to make that coaching staff be like, well, let's hold on a minute, because I think the Cardinals are going to be competitive all the way until like the end of the season. Like I think they're going to be around 8-8, 9-7 with Sam Bradford. So Sam Bradford is going to win them games, and I don't think he's going to play bad, which is going to make it easier for Steve Wilkes to be like, let's hold on a year and let's see, what Sam Bradford has this year. And then they're going to go to Rosen next year. That's my opinion.
And Jordan, you and I also touched last year or the other night on Bradford as well. When he was healthy, he was tearing it up.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good quarterback. And don't get me wrong, he will play good, but I just think I think the coaching staff just wants Rosen so bad that they're going to wait for that one time when Sam Bradford throws that one really bad pick that he's always due for. And as soon as he throws it, it's gone.
If he's hurt, he's done.
Yeah, or
if he's
hurt,
he's done.
Like, he's hurt real often, and I don't know, man. And my final question on the whole front of all divisions, to be honest with you, before we get into playoff predictions and the whole 9 yards and say goodbye shortly thereafter, can Russell Wilson save the Seahawks? And now that we have Earl Thomas looking like he might report, that's a very, very big factor into that question. Mr. Hertz, can he be Superman?
He can, but in order for him to do that, he's going to have like an MVP caliber season, and I think that's going to be difficult because they lost Jimmy Graham. There are questions on what they're going to be able to do in the run game, even though I am really high on Rashad Penny. I just think he's going to have to play his ass off because I think that secondary is going to get burned. Because when you're going up against top offenses, like last year, even when they had the Legion of Boom, like Houston went up there and shredded them in Seattle. Like, I think that Russell Wilson is going to have to put like 30 points on the board each game because I think that secondary, even with Earl Thomas, I think that secondary is going to have some real big issues. And so, like, I just think he can, but it's going to be very hard because I look at Doug Baldwin, and I like Doug Baldwin, but I've never been high on him as a starting wideout. And Brandon Marshall's old. Like, I don't know who else he's throwing the ball to, And so with that being said, like, I think he can, but I don't think he's going to. I think they're like 7-9 this year.
What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, I agree, but I think they're going to be a little bit worse than 7-9. It's nothing to do with Russell. I think if Russell has to have one of the greatest seasons we have ever seen, take them to the playoffs. Literally, like he's like Doug Baldwin's good. Like as you said, Doug Baldwin's good. He's not great. Marshall's too old. Tyler Lockett, we've never really heard of. I don't even know the fourth option. I can't really name him. Rashad Penny's going to be good, but not good enough. There's no running back behind him. The O-line's terrible. Defense is not good. It's just Russell Wilson and Earl Thomas against the world, and I don't think they can do it.
I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. I think the Seahawks definitely have a really good opportunity to go fourth in the league or in the division. I think that's pretty much. I mean, like you said, I mean, like he's gonna have to be Superman, and I just don't see it. I also think that this could be Pete Carroll's last year as the head coach in Seattle. I think that's also something that could be very, very possible. So,
100%.
Yeah. So, so I'm predicting the Seahawks, now that I think about it, actually more like 5-11-ish, 6-10. I think the Niners are going to go 7-9 because now they don't have Jerick McKinnon. That's a huge blow, and they don't have weapons. So I think they're going 7-9. I'm going to put the Cardinals at 8-8, and then I'm putting the Rams at 14-2. So, yeah, that's my predictions.
Jordan, what do you got? You got the Rams,
I agree pretty much the exact same.
and then both
Except
of
I have
you. Oh, my bad. Go
yeah.
ahead.
That's all right. Except I just have the 49ers at 8-8. That's the only difference.
And then go ahead and remind me of your guys' wild cards.
So my wild cards are Green Bay and Atlanta.
What about you, Jordan?
Mine are Atlanta and the Giants.
Interesting.
Whoa. Okay.
I could see it, man. I think Shermer is a hell of an offensive mind, and with Barkley, that sky's the limit. The question for that offense is going to be, can they block?
Yeah.
To be honest with you, can that offensive line not only block, but can they stay healthy? Because when that offensive line started dropping like flies last year, that's when the struggle bus began to go in motion. As far as the wild card is concerned, it looks like, across the board, we're unanimous again on every division except one, with Jordan being the lone man to take the Packers in the North and me and Ben taking the Vikings. Everybody else agrees the Eagles, Saints, and Rams come out of their respective divisions. This is a tough one, man. I am going to go, however, with full agreement on Ben. I think it's going to be Packers and Falcons as well. Actually, that's a lie. I think it's going to be Packers and Panthers. To be honest with you, I think the loss of Kyle Shanahan really deterred the Atlanta Falcons. That offense has kind of looked lost ever since he came to San Francisco. So now that we have our playoffs, so how this is going to work is we have each seeding, and I'm going to go. I need you guys to give me seedings. If you guys have records for your playoffs, how does seeding go for you, Hertz? Starting with the AFC 1 through 6.
The AFC, okay. So I'm gonna go Steelers at number 1. I think they just have it. I actually am gonna go bold and say Jacksonville is gonna grab the 2nd seed.
Wow.
And then I think Patriots are 3rd seed. And then I think the Chiefs are 4th seed. So that's how I'm predicting that. So
and then wild card order.
Wild card order, I'm gonna go 5th. I'm gonna go Houston, and then 6th. I'm going with the LA Chargers.
Steelers, Jaguars, Patriots, Chiefs, and then you had Houston and then the Chargers.
Yep.
And then give me an order of the NFC.
So then with the NFC, I'm gonna go the Rams have the 1.
Yep.
Let's see here. Ooh, this is tough, man. I'm gonna go Eagles 2, obviously. I'm gonna go with the Saints at man. Oof. I don't know, man. I mean, I think the Saints and Vikings are definitely fighting for the 3rd. I'll go with the Vikings. And
don't remind Saints fans about the Vikings, by the way.
What's up?
I said don't remind Saints fans about the Vikings, by the way.
I know. It's tough. It's tough, man. I mean, because I think so I'm going to go with the Vikings at 3 and the Saints at 4, but I think that can be changeable. Like, I think, honestly, the order in the NFC, that's very changeable. And then with the wild card, I'm going to go Green Bay with 5, and then at 6, I'm going to go Atlanta.
Packers, Falcons. Okay, Jordan, you're up. AFC.
All right. So I got Steelers at 1, the Pats at 2. I'm going to have Jacksonville coming at 3, the Chargers at 4, and then Houston 5, Kansas City 6.
NFC?
Rams 1, Eagles 2, Saints 3, Panthers 4, Falcons 5, Giants 6.
For me, it's gonna go Steelers, Patriots with the bye in the AFC, then Jaguars, Chargers, then Chiefs, Ravens. Then in the NFC, I'm gonna go Eagles, Rams, Saints, Vikings, Packers, Panthers. All right, so now how this is going to work is I'll start with Ben, and I'm going to go as it lines up. We'll rapid fire these games as the matchups convey it, and obviously we will end up ultimately with everybody's individual Super Bowl champion that way. Chargers at New England, Ben.
New England.
Houston at Kansas City.
I'm going to go Houston.
And so in the NFC, Falcons, Vikings.
Falcons and Vikings. Oh, man. Dude. Vikings.
Packers, Saints in New Orleans.
Man. Dude, I'm going to go Packers.
Jordan, your wild card round. Chiefs, Jaguars in Jacksonville.
Jags.
Texans, Chargers in LA.
Chargers.
Giants, Saints in New Orleans.
Saints.
Falcons, Panthers, divisional matchup in Carolina or at Carolina.
Panthers.
All right. Ravens, Jaguars in Jacksonville for me. I'm going Jacksonville. Chiefs at Chargers in LA. While I do think the Chargers will win that division, I think Kansas City takes that one in the playoffs. And then Panthers, Saints in New Orleans. I'm going New Orleans. Packers, Vikings in Minnesota. I'm going to go Minnesota. So divisional round, Hertz, Texans in Pittsburgh. And New England at Jacksonville.
You're breaking up a little bit.
New England at Jacksonville. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. New England at Jacksonville. I'm going to go with Jacksonville.
Okay, so your AFC Championship game is Pittsburgh hosting Jacksonville. Interesting. Very interesting. NFC, Packers travel to LA.
Let's see. Packers traveling to LA. Man, I don't know. I'm going to go with LA.
And the Vikings try to exact revenge at Lincoln Financial in Philly.
Philly.
So you've got Steelers, Jaguars, and Rams, Eagles. And then Jordan, Chargers at Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
And then Jaguars at New England.
The Jags win that.
Man, so neither of you guys have New England in your AFC title games.
No.
Wow.
Nope.
Yeah, I argued with myself about an hour about it.
Panthers and the Rams in LA, Jordan.
That's the Rams game.
And then Saints in Philly.
I'm going to say the Saints win that game.
Ooh. Okay.
So you have Steelers, Jags, and Rams, Saints.
Yep.
For me, Chiefs in Pittsburgh. I think the Chiefs can be AFC title contenders soon. Just not now. I like Pittsburgh. And I definitely think New England is going to go to the AFC title game, especially with a game at home. I like them to beat Jacksonville. Vikings and Eagles. I'm going to go Eagles. And for my upset special, New Orleans to take out LA in LA. So my title games are Steelers, Pats, and Eagles, Saints. So being that both of you guys have Steelers and Jaguars in your respective AFC title games, kind of both of you maybe individually give me the background of that game, starting with Ben. Who gets it done and why in the AFC title game, Steelers, Jags?
I think the Steelers, on the sense that I think when it comes to quarterback play, you're going to get a lot better. I mean, just looking at the game they had last year in the divisional matchup, I think that the Steelers started to pick up momentum, but it was almost like too late. Or I don't think the Jags are going to be able to. I think the Steelers are going to learn from their mistake, and I think they're just going to out-offense the Jaguars, even though they have the best defense in the league. I mean, they're also going up against probably like a top 3 offense in the Steelers, and they're just going to lose via offense, I think. And so I'm predicting they'll win by about 10 points.
For Pittsburgh?
Yep, Pittsburgh.
And Jordan, what do you think?
I think Pittsburgh wins this game just because I think the whole playoffs, both sides of this board, are going to be shootouts. And I don't think Jacksonville's ready for a shootout necessarily with the Steelers. I think they're going to try to keep up with other teams, but I don't think they're going to be able to keep up with the Steelers. I think Big Ben, Le'Veon, and Antonio Brown are going to be way too much for that defense going into the second half. And I think the game's going to be won in the second half by at least 10 points.
So both of you like the Steelers to advance to the Super Bowl. Steelers and Patriots, for me, is an interesting game. While I don't have the Jaguars like you guys do. And to be honest with you, as history would indicate, I believe that Tom Brady on the road in the AFC playoffs is a different man. However, I'm not willing to hop off the Belichick train. I like New England to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl because I just don't feel as though that it is the safe call, but I don't feel as though that Bill Belichick has given me much reason to believe anything otherwise than what he is capable of and has shown. So I'm going to go ahead and go with New England, as well as I'm going to go ahead and go with the upset in the NFC. Rather than a Patriots-Eagles rematch, I think we're going to get a fresh Super Bowl matchup of the Patriots and Saints. My Super Bowl will be New England versus New Orleans. Jordan, you have the Steelers versus either New Orleans or LA. Who comes out of that?
Man, it's gonna be a really tough game. That's gonna be a huge shootout. I see Rams winning by like a field goal.
So you have Steelers
Rams.
Then your NFC Championship game is Rams-Eagles.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go the Rams by field goal. I think it's gonna be a shootout too, and I think it's gonna be generally the same. So I'm saying Rams and Steelers as well.
So I'm gonna give you guys the respective floor again for that Super Bowl kind of preview matchup. Steelers-Rams would be a matchup that would be very, very fun. It would be super high scoring, real high octane, a shootout in its own right. And Mr. Freeman, we'll start with you. Super Bowl champions are going to be either Pittsburgh or LA.
I think this is going to be just like the last Super Bowl we saw. It's going to be constant, just bombs out of the gate. People are going to be just scoring constantly. I don't see this game coming down to a field goal. I see it either going into overtime or being a game-winning touchdown from the Rams. It would be about, I want to say, 45 to 38.
So you're going with the Rams to win the Super Bowl?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Hertz, the floor is yours.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with the Rams 38, Pittsburgh 27. So I think that they're just going to outbeat them in offense a little bit. Because I think there's going to be some times, like there are going to be some drives, obviously, where Pittsburgh dominates the Rams, but I think the Rams are going to come up with, some big plays on the defensive side, whereas I don't think Pittsburgh is as talented to do that. Like I think the Rams are going to be able to bully them a little bit more on offense than the Steelers are going to be able to do, just because like the Rams have a better defense. And I think it's going to be the Rams. I think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year.
I certainly would not be surprised, so we have two guys siding with the LA Rams, and in my opinion, being that my Super Bowl will be contested between New England and New Orleans. I like that. That's a fun matchup on paper that I think a lot of us would not mind seeing in the Super Bowl, depending on how you gauge whether you like New England or not. But all of that being said, I am going to go the safe route again. I'm going to go with New England, man. I think that they are going to show once again why they are the dynasty that they have become. I think to the dismay of a lot of people not named Tig, they are going to prove again why Belichick is what he is and why Tom Brady is labeled what he is as well. And in my opinion, that is the greatest of all time. So, and what better way to do it than capping off a season where he has really Edelman and Hogan to throw to outside of Gronk and nobody else.
Yeah. If he does that, there's no. I think there's an argument that you're never going to have a quarterback better than Tom Brady, because if you can do it with the receiving core that he does it with, I mean, I'm just betting against him just in like the talent of the whole team. If you take Tom Brady away from it, so it's Tom Brady's to win. I agree with that. I mean, or it's his to lose. I just think they're going to get outplayed. I mean, they're going to get outplayed, and there's nothing like just how they did in the Super Bowl. Tom Brady threw for 500 yards and 3 touchdowns. Obviously, he played like MVP caliber. He played amazingly. But again, they lost because of a defense. And I think it's going to go down to that too. Like, I think there's no legacy that's going to be tarnished. I think they're just going to get outplayed.
Interesting, man. So I think that about wraps us up here. Really had fun doing this preview today. The season starts tomorrow with the Eagles hosting the Falcons tomorrow night on Thursday night. Before we say goodbye, you guys either got any plans? Jordan, you working?
No, I'm off.
I'm working, unfortunately.
Yup, and then I got a career fair at 6 o'clock to attend, so that'll be fun. So I got to get myself ready to to tackle that full time position. So that'll be fun. So I got some preparation to do, but it's all good.
More power to you, man. I'm gonna have to fucking gauge how many people want blue cheese or ranch. It's gonna be a terrible time.
Oh, that's gonna be rough, man. It's gonna be rough.
It's a lot less rough when you have a flat screen with the game on, staring you right in the face in your little corner. So
that's true.
That makes it a lot better.
Oh, it definitely makes it bearable for sure. Honestly, the viewership count for this episode was actually pretty high from what I'm seeing. For those that might be listening to this a second time on whatever avenue you decide to travel, thank you again for listening. And once again, we will be signing off for now. What is today? Today is Wednesday. Blah, blah, blah. So my next episode will be Sunday, edition 2 of the College Football Roundup. Cannot wait. And
awesome,
as for my friends Jordan and my friends Ben and I had a great time having you guys on today. And we'll be signing off for today. And we hope to see you guys again soon. Thank you for listening.